Okay, so welcome to another video. We're going to be going into the Kybalion. It's a book on Hermetic philosophy. It's a book that talks about the principles of the universe. If you're a person who's interested in polymathery, who's interested in spirituality, who's interested in self-development, who's interested in just becoming more enlightened, this book is for you. If you have no understanding of philosophy, don't worry about it. I'm just going to walk you through the principles and how I've used them, applied them into my life to make my life better, make myself more competent, and make myself more confident in my role as a creator. And when I'm talking about creator, I'm just saying becoming the person that is able to create in this universe in a manner that is fun, in a manner that is creative, in a manner that is free. So let's proceed. Principle 1 is the principle of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. This is, when I first read this, I was thinking about how this went against the current conception or the current idea of the universe, which is a lot of people think that the universe is physical, that our consciousness is the byproduct of physical matter working in a way that allows for us to experience consciousness. But in reality, it is the other way around. Mind is what brought matter, and so everything comes from the mind. And what mind? I would say the mind of God is what connects us all. So the mind of God, we can call it the universe, we can call it source, but we are all God, and God is within us all. That's the understanding. And this is where we also get into the more popular axiom, if you have ever heard it: as above, so below; as within, so without. So as you see without, so you are within; and as you are within, so you will see without. That's where you get to really understand your power to create. So when it comes to how you can apply this principle, you will understand that everything is mental. So when you learn to manage and understand your mind, you can really learn how to mold and create. So being able to understand that first there's mind, and then there's matter. That's really where we get into the idea of manifestation, where you can, if you can conceptualize something within your mind, you can hold it within your hand. And that is something that has rung true throughout my life and that I've understood. The more it first becomes mental, okay, and it also can be applied in other forms, which is that your fears are usually mental, your issues with people are usually mental. So like, before trying to fix something outside of yourself, first fix it within yourself. First understand it within yourself. Not everything needs to be fixed, but all things must be understood. So you must understand it within yourself before you go out into the world and try to fix things. So if you want to become a more capable creator, you want to understand the mind. And so if you haven't looked into psychology, then hopefully this pushes you to understand psychology, because if you can understand the mind, then you can then apply those understandings into the world at large and the universe at large, which is also mental, and you can start to make parallels and really get to play with reality in a much more powerful way. The second principle is the principle of correspondence. As above, so below; as below, so above. I've kind of already mentioned it. Let me just really quick, just to make sure what I'm talking about. So the principle of correspondence. Let me look at it really quick. There it is. So in the book, when we're looking at the principle of correspondence, we're looking at, there's a lot of mention about planes. There's the physical plane, the mental plane, the great spiritual plane, and it has been discussed in a lot of occult books that there are usually 7 planes within the planes. So there's 7 minor physical planes, as there are 7 mental planes, as there are 7 spiritual planes, and we live in that rung. Yes. And And this principle of correspondence is also kind of, it's very analogous to, I think there's the intro to the Simpsons movie where they're kind of going, I think, I don't know how it goes, but like it goes from the universe within, and it goes all the way down through the earth to the lands to the water, then to like the people, and then it goes into the cells of the people, and it keeps going down to atoms, and then it comes right back up into the universe. So it's like everything is an expression of itself. The universe works in ways that that mirror each other. It's all just a matter of scale. So like there's the macrocosm and the microcosm, but you can see the macro, or you can understand the macrocosm through the microcosm. And this principle of correspondence has really allowed me to be able to apply concepts from much much smaller disciplines, for example in dance or in mathematics. I could apply concepts that I've learned in the microcosm of dance or mathematics to the universe at large, which is a much larger macrocosm, or life in general, and they will ring true. They will be able to fit into these different areas because of the law of correspondence. As within, so without; as above, so below. So as above, so below. So even though you're looking at something that's of a smaller scale, you can be able to use that as a little thing that to help you understand the thing that's much larger. The next principle is the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. So everything is vibration. Discusses molecular attraction. Okay, so I think, oh, this is where it discusses something very important. So degrees of heat. I think there was something very interesting here that was discussed, which was the fact that cold and heat are really the same thing, just expressed differently. Okay. What I understand, I was trying to go through a concept, but I couldn't really capture it. What I understand from the principle of vibration is that there's vibrations to things, and people have discussed this a lot in the spiritual community. Higher vibration, trying to raise your vibration, high vibe, etc. And I think they do a pretty good job, but I think that there's a lot more to it to be discussed. For example, the idea that spirit is the highest vibration. That if you can put physical matter and spin it to a high enough degree, high enough speed, it will turn into light. I think that was a very big realization for me. And also Einstein was the one that discovered this. E equals mc squared. E being, I think, energy equals mc squared. M, I think, mass multiplied by the speed of light, which is c squared. That is equal to energy. So everything becomes energy. Every single piece of matter becomes energy if vibrated to a high enough degree. And my understanding of that led me to believing in the fact that we are not just material beings, that we are all energy, that we are all vibrating, and so everything is vibration. If you want to live a good life, you pick higher vibratory things. I have also thought about containers. So like if I want to live a high vibe life, Well, I don't go to low vibe spaces. I create containers, or I create spaces that are designed to vibrate at a specific rate, um, whether they be through just intention, whether they be through commitment, etc. And that allows me to propel myself forward and use that as a platform for my enhancement of my expression. So that's my summary of it. There's not much for me to discuss here. I feel like a lot of people talk about it already. Mental transmutation. Okay, this is really powerful. Mental transmutation. Let's get into that. So, mental transmutation, the word transmutation itself is something that needs to be discussed a lot more. But converting something that is lower energy to something that is higher energy, how does that happen? Well, we as human beings, we are much. I want to say, I'm going to say vehicles. I was going to say machines, but we are vehicles for the enhancement of the things that we come into contact with. So every experience should be a higher vibration after I have experienced it. So if I go into a room, once I have left that room will have had a higher experience because of my ability to think, to perceive, to feel higher, and that allows for the room to be transformed. So we are walking vehicles that transform. We are walking transformative vehicles, and when we understand this we can understand our power. And so when we're looking at a low vibration energy, if we look at, for example, lust, this is a perfect example. A lot of people struggle with lust, but if we learn to see lust as an energy, it might be a lower vibratory energy, but it is an energy nonetheless. If we can use our bodies to interpret that energy in a specific way, or put it in the right place, or put it in a different channel for expression, then that lust can become, for example, love, or it can become art, or it can become passion, or it can become inspiration. So this has a lot to do with shadow work, and I think shadow work does a great job with this, because if the shadow is all the things that we have repressed, and at the end of the day, my goal is to not have a shadow, is to not be repressing anything, but to be a pure expression of everything that I am. And what I have realized is through shadow work is the more you're able to transmute these lower vibratory energies within yourself, the more creative, competent, and capable you become. Because the energy that has been locked and blocked from repressing these lower vibratory energies becomes released, and now it also has become enhanced. And so all the fears that we carry, the anger, the resentment, the all of those lower vibratory things that we hold within the shadow can finally be expressed in the correct avenue, whether it be psychic abilities, whether it be creativity, whether it be just confidence. So everything being vibration means that you have the ability to raise the vibration of everything you come into contact with. So I guess that's what I wanted to leave with that one. Polarity. Polarity is everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet, all truths are but half-truths, all paradoxes may be reconciled. This book is so deep, I feel like I would want to do like a whole masterclass just on this book, just like me really going in depth into every single principle and talk about what is the author really trying to say here. But there were so many things said in this one little paragraph. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. So I just mentioned the shadow. When it comes to shadow work, there's always a yin and a yang. Whenever there's a split within the yin and the yang, whenever there is a split, then that means that it is acting as a shadow. When you're able to integrate both the yin and the yang, you reach that apex, which then becomes the transmutation of the shadow, the higher expression of the shadow. Because once you're able to meet them together, these two negatives, you marry them, and then they elevate together. That is the result of integration. But that rule of everything is dual is super powerful, because that's within that concept. The shadow has both a negative and a positive. And then I was mentioning heat and cold. but that was really for this chapter, which is good. Now we're here. It said that everything. Let's see. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truth are but half truth. So when we're talking about extremes, the extreme of cold and the extreme heat are really just the same thing. If we were to experience extreme heat and extreme cold, our body still burns. We still experience it as a burning sensation. And people really think that when it comes to opposites, that they're a straight line, but in reality, they're just circles and they meet. So when you see a spectrum, it's kind of like the Ouroboros, like the dragon eating its tail. There is no, everything is the same thing. Let's talk more. So that's heat and cold, yin and yang. So yin and yang can be seen as both positive and negative. They are equal in I think it said equal. They're identical in nature. So positive and negative, they both have equal influence, but they're just different in degree. Meaning that they equal in nature, different in degree. So they're equal in their influence, but they're just expressions of they're just different expressions of the same thing. And I think the most powerful concept of this really has to do with attraction. The idea that when somebody is attracted to another person, there is this, usually people are attracted to things that they feel like brings out this polarity. The positive is attracted to the negative. So at the end of the day, attraction is very much based on how polar you are, even though polarity can be seen as something that is very repulsive, something that's very distinguishing. But at the end of the day, when these two come together, that is what leads to the attraction, to love, or to creation. So crap, this is like pretty hard to explain, I'm not gonna lie. Can read through it. So by raising his mental vibrations along the lines of fear, courage, he can be filled with. Take the case of a fearful man. By raising his mental vibrations along the line of fear, courage, he can be filled with the highest degree of courage and fearlessness. And likewise, the slothful man may change himself into an active, energetic individual simply by polarizing along the lines of the desired quality. There's kind of the idea of fear being the same as, or nervousness being the same as excitement. So instead of interpreting your nervousness because you get shaky, you get like your body gets like shaky. Instead of interpreting your nervousness, you can interpret it as excitement, and so then you can automatically switch the energy that you have from passive to active in that manner. So I'm kind of like fumbling the bag on this explanation on polarity, just because I keep thinking about other things. But this is something that I have used very commonly. How do we label things? How do we relate to things? How do we interpret things? How do we interpret energy? Being able to interpret a negative energy as something positive and vice versa. Understanding that all energy is really just expressions, and our interpretation of those energies is really going to be what gives us power to those expressions. So the key for me has always been to be still, to be in the middle. Whenever you find yourself on one end, it can be very easy to shoot right over to the other end. So like being not depressed, but like reacting to situations, for example. Like if I'm excited about success, then I'm going to be as disappointed when I don't succeed. I'm going to be just as reactive. If I get super excited about success, then I'll be super reactive about not succeeding, and that could be very detrimental because you want to be a person that can stay content throughout all situations. So understanding this law that everything is really equal, just expressed differently, then we'll be seeing that maybe when it comes to emotions, you can manage your emotions a lot better. Maybe your emotions are just a negative expression. Maybe you can change it to a positive. And then also, it can work with shadow work. So if you find yourself in the negative, maybe you can work to integrate them together, and then you have something more whole, which is not just you going back swinging to the other end, but you actually putting them together, getting the best of both worlds, and expressing something much higher. Now rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifest in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. This is similar to what I just said, but everything flows. You know, there's always ups and downs in life. That is the law of the universe. That you're gonna have successes and then you're gonna have disappointments and failures. There's gonna be moments where you go up, and there's gonna be moments when you go down. I saw this in the, I think it was in psychology when we were looking at our behavior in regards to a drug, for example. Like there's a spike and then there's a dip, and then we level back up to homeostasis. That's the understanding that everything that goes up must come down. And really, when you look at this from a larger perspective, a larger macrocosmic perspective with life, when you go through life, there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, but there's a way to supersede that where you're able to not be attached to the emotions. So learning to not be attached to the emotions allows you to gain a centering within yourself that will then push you to be able to not be attached to outcomes. So when there's an up, you don't ride that wave up, or you can ride that wave up, but making sure to be aware when it goes down, and you don't have to ride that wave down. In my life, my goal is to be still, to be content, to be in rhythm, but in a rhythm that is just not so driven by ups and downs. It's more like just little waves. And I think that's the best way to do it. There's no best way. You live your life the way you want to, but when it comes to being able to just make clear judgments, having a clear head, allowing yourself to be real to the moment, not getting too emotional, not getting driven by something other than your higher self, you want to be still. Stillness allows for the expression of something higher, and so does happiness and all of that. But I just found that stillness is like the barrier from all the things below it, the negativity. Let's go into the law of gender, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. So the feminine principle is the one always doing the active creative work, and the masculine principle seems to be that of directing a certain inherent energy toward the feminine principle, and thus starting into activity the creative processes. I could do a whole class on just this alone, but I would say that when I was learning about the masculine and the feminine, I found a lot. There's a great understanding here, because in the universe there's a masculine and there's a feminine. The masculine directs, it plans, it strategizes, it creates the framework, the structure, while the feminine comes in and fills the structure. They color it. They color the structure. They fill it. So being able to understand the masculine within you, we can then see, like, when people think of men, they think about being structured, being direct, being active, being driven, having a purpose. That's the masculine, and then there's the feminine, and the feminine has to do with receptivity, with surrendering, with creation, with intuition. So those two things will then, if you can understand the feminine and masculine within yourself, then you're able to really play the game at a higher level, because you're not going to you're not going to be attached to you're going to be able to better manage the energies within you. In psychology, Carl Jung talks about the feminine and the masculine. When we get to meet the feminine within ourselves, if you're a man, for example, then you're really tapped into your creativity. That's when you get access to your ability to create, to be spontaneous, to be joyful, to be filled with life. Versus with a woman, when she meets her masculine within herself, that's when she's able to step up for herself, to be direct, to take initiative, etc. So understanding these two principles will also then allow you to understand the universe in a better way, because when looking at the universe, the thing that you want to understand is that the universe, I feel like what I have understood is like when you set the intention, the universe can feel it. You are also in a relationship with the universe. So taking on, there's two ways of creating. There's the feminine approach, and then there's the masculine approach. If you want to create as the masculine, then that's when you plan, you set the intention, you write your things out. But then the feminine is you go with the flow. You let things come to you. You sit back. You wait. And both of these approaches are essential to creating in this universe. And you have to first understand both of these sides, so that you can then, when you're going through life, know when it's time to take one side and when it's time to do the other, or when it's time to do a mix of both. And when you do that, then you're really going in line with life. You're really flowing with life, and you're really dancing with life in a way that is just beautiful. That's when you get to like the fun dance, the joy of being in love with life. I think that's it. For this Hermetic axioms, mental gender. Yeah, they talk about gender and they talk about mental gender, but yeah, there's mention here of the conscious mind, of the feminine and the subconscious mind. But I'm not going to get into that too much. But let me just go through a few axioms from the Kybalion just to wrap it up. So, to change your mood or mental state, change your vibration. One may change his mental vibrations by an effort of will in the direction of deliberately fixing the attention upon a more desirable state. Will directs the attention. Attention changes the vibration. Cultivate the art of attention by means of the will, and you have solved the secret of the mastery of moods and mental states. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Will is another tool that we have within ourselves. Our will allows us to direct our attention, which then channels the energy into a different manner. So when you're nervous, that's energy. With your will, you're able to define that energy as you're being excited. So maybe you create mental images, mental pictures. Maybe you create a story within your head that then gives attention to this idea of excitement, and then that idea of excitement moves that energy towards excitement, and then it actualizes itself as excitement rather than it being nervousness. So to destroy an undesirable rate of mental vibration, put into operation the principle of polarity and concentrate upon the opposite pole to that which you desire to suppress. Kill out the undesirable by changing its polarity. Mental vibration. So it's saying, if you're in this negative state, focus on the opposite end of that same state, and you'll be able to change your state. I think it's similar to what I just said. It says mind as well as states, as metals and elements may be transmuted from state to state, degree to degree, condition to condition, pole to pole, vibration to vibration. it may be transmuted from state to state. So transmutation is a really important process. It's discussed in shadow work, but also Abraham Hicks, if you guys are not familiar with her. Abraham Hicks is a teacher who teaches law of attraction, and what he or she preaches is that you can bring yourself out of your current state, but the way to do it is not to shoot for so high. Like if you're depressed, you're not going to be joyful. The idea is to slowly transmute yourself to the next state, the closest state, and that allows you to switch and finally get to that desirable state. And you can transmute it through, she gives examples of thinking about things that you love, of focusing your attention on things that you care about, etc., etc. So you can change your mood through conscious intention. You can transmute your mood through conscious intention. This book is really powerful. These are just a few things that can help with that, with really becoming a creator, like really using your energies, really using your mind in a way that empowers you rather than takes away from you. Because at the end of the day, we all start as slaves to our minds. We don't know how to control it. We don't know how to control our emotions. This is the first step. Philosophy will give you that power to begin to think, to frame these things in the right way, so that you can then see the possibilities and then take conscious action of that, become a conscious participator of your life. So if anything, sorry for like all the pauses and all that. I just wanted to introduce this book to you. If you pick it up and you start reading it, then the intention of the video has already succeeded. If you ever have any questions about it, let me know. But that's it for this video. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.